You have a wiring harness. Now what? Replacing a wiring harness without thorough instructions could be very difficult, but the goal of this video is to walk you through the process of getting it installed when you don't have a thorough how-to. Now firstly, what you want to do is you want to find a diagram for your wiring harness, and that'll help you find the shape of the wire. So if it runs straight across, or if it runs around something, and through the help of YouTube videos and diagrams, we can easily figure out how our wiring has to go, in what direction, to what plugs, where it doesn't go. Finding diagrams isn't always easy. If you simply look up a diagram for the wiring harness you need, you might have a tough time. But if you look up, let's say, 2015 Chevy Cruze engine wiring harness, or 2015 Chevy Cruze door wiring harness, oftentimes you will find good pictures of the actual diagram and how the wire goes on the shopping page. So you can go through eBay, you can go through Amazon, you can go through any shopping website really. And if you scroll through all their photos, you usually find a diagram of the wiring and the adjacent parts that are around the wiring. And the shape of that wire, however it is on the diagram, may help you install this a lot faster. Now in front of us, we have a wiring harness for a 2015 Chevy Cruze. It is disconnected from the engine. This is the main wiring harness for the engine. It goes to the AC compressor, it goes to the alternator, it goes to the O2 sensors, the NOx sensors, and all the other sensors really that are on the engine. So doing this wrong could cause a Christmas tree of problems. So after finding our diagrams, we might have an approximate idea of how the wiring goes, especially if we found YouTube videos on something unrelated, but that actually shows the wiring in detail. It's a lot easier. Here's how it's done. So as all good stories start, we start at the beginning. Determining the beginning of a wiring harness is quite simple. You just find the biggest plug you can find. For me, it's 3 large plugs that are right by the ECM. And right off the bat, we have our first hiccup. We have 3 nearly identical plugs at the very beginning of this harness. The good thing is that car manufacturers don't always make it a hard time trying to install these. As you can see, we have a gray plug right here, a black plug right here, a blue plug right here. Looks kind of familiar, doesn't it? Now, it's never a good idea to try to plug these in while they're wet, so make sure you dry them off with a compressor or some compressed air in a bottle. That way we can reduce corrosion for the future, and we can improve our contact and not burn any electronics on the way. We will start with the blue bottommost plug here. Then we will move on to the black one. And then we'll do the gray one. Now once we have our main plugs plugged in, we have a starting point. We have a place where it's holding onto the car and you don't have to worry about it dangling everywhere. Now would be a good time to look at your diagram, to look approximately how your wiring goes. In my case, since these plugs are horizontal, I can determine that the wiring harness comes back around to the rear of the vehicle like this. Now here's where it might get a little tricky. Now don't be discouraged if you have to redo it or even do it 3 times over, because without clear instructions, oftentimes it's easy to miss a place where you have to go under something, like under an exhaust or above an intake manifold, and you have to redo it. But now we need to connect the very end of the cable. What we'll want to do next is grab the very end of the cable, the longest part, and we want to find the plug that plugs into this. You will usually see on the wiring diagram the very last plug. Mine is somewhere down here. Now these connectors are on the AC compressor, so I will show you with this one right here. Now I'm going to have to do things just a little differently because I couldn't find a diagram for this car. Yes, I couldn't find a diagram. So what I did is I looked at a YouTube video of how to replace the water pump, and it showed me quite well where the wires were supposed to go on that side of the engine. So once you have your path established and your last plug established, then you could start looking into where it has to go, where it doesn't go, where it doesn't fit. For example, if you have an exhaust manifold, you obviously know that it shouldn't touch the exhaust manifold. So you try to find any holes that the wire holders plug into, any plugs that get plugged into the engine that are near the area, and how you can route that wiring in a safe manner. Once we have our last plug plugged in, and we have our path more or less settled and understood, we can go ahead and start looking for random plugs on this cable. If the car would be fully assembled, we would track the wiring and plug in every single plug on the way. Now, I didn't do that because I have my intake manifold off for another project. So what I would do in a fully assembled state is I would find the plugs. I'll show you how it's done with this alternator. We have a plug down here. It's a fairly small plug, about the size of my finger. And we have this nut right here that a connector goes under. That would be a ring connector, so we need to find that somewhere on the harness. And sometimes we run into complications like the wiring coming from different sides. What I have going on is a different harness coming in here and providing me with that ring connector. That is a positive cable coming off of the alternator, but we don't have a plug on here. So let's start looking. Here's what I would do. I would grab our harness. We have a harness splitting off of here, and this right here is already connected. So no matter how I twist or pull this, there's no plug that can go that low. So I'll grab this one, and I'll try plugging any plug that will fit into there. So the size of the plug is approximately the size of my finger. That's too large. So it's very likely these two plugs. I'm ruling this one out because it is too high up in the harness and it wouldn't reach even if I would stretch it directly. So about making sure that we have our plugs right. If you look down there, you'll be able to see that we have a little nub right here, a little sharp thing right here, right in front of my finger, that holds the plug in place. So we need to have our retainers on the side where we have our little nub down there. So in my case, our nub is sticking out this way. My retainer has to be on this side. So let's start looking. So mine, I got it first try, but if you would try to plug something else in, it's very, very, very unlikely that you would be able to get that in, as we see with this example right here. No matter how you try to shimmy it around, it just won't go. And oftentimes, these connectors are made so that you can attempt to plug it in without bending the pins. But you still got to be very careful because bending the pins is still a possibility when you're attempting to plug in random plugs in. We have our plugs plugged in and our positives hooked up. We need to find our grounds. Now the ground wires will always be a shade of black or gray. So as we'll see right here, we have this harness that we just hooked up. It goes down and it goes directly to the body of the car. We have another one and we have another one. Those are grounds. Make sure that the color of these wires is a dark color. Do not connect red wires to the chassis of the car. That can cause a short circuit and severe electrical issues, if not a fire. So make sure to connect only dark colored wires to the chassis. This one looks like a white wire, but if we peel this back a little bit, we see that this is actually a dark colored wire right here. That's the procedure and the tips and tricks that I found. So don't be intimidated. Wiring can be difficult, but it can be done, and it can be done at home. Well, I hope this helped you out. I'm rolling out, but I'll see you in the next one.